Welcome back. I would like to take you on a journey on these two steaks. You see these two steaks? One is rock hard and the other one is fresh. One has been kept in a refrigerator and one has been kept in the freezer because I want to take a look at the question. Does freezing your steaks ruin them? In the steak world, there's been one thing that has always tricked me. Why is there so many online places to get meats at? There's no way that they're being shipped to you fresh, but actually frozen. And I know we have heard the term, and I want to know if it's just marketing or if it's an actual real thing, fresh, never frozen. You've seen fresh, never frozen burgers, you've seen fresh, never frozen steaks, but does that mean anything? We're gonna cook both of these in a similar way. Now first, I need to get them both to about the same temperature. So I'm gonna let this one rest out. See you in a second. Made the mistake of not recording any audio. What we did is we cut off the excess fat. We also seasoned up our steaks. We're gonna use kosher salt, finely ground black pepper, because if you use too big of chunks of black pepper, it will get stuck in your teeth and you'll be very annoyed by it. Remember, you can go really heavy with the seasonings because most of it's gonna cook off in the pan. We're gonna be getting the pan extremely hot and you're gonna lose a lot of the seasoning. So just go pretty heavy with it. Now that I'm making a huge mess, let's use a little bit of garlic powder, and this garlic powder is just gonna add a little bit more flavor. I might have made a huge mess, but at least our steaks are ready to go in a hot. So let's get a hot pan, throw these bad boys in and start cooking. Let's begin by getting our tools ready because this is a very fast process once this heats up. So we're gonna start with some butter, have some garlic and thyme ready. We're gonna need a spoon and a cheap thermometer will work. This is like $8. Don't worry about getting a nice one. And we're gonna need some tongs and have a spot to put your finished steaks when you're done. Now with the garlic, it's simple. Just to get ready, I just like to score this. This is gonna help the juices seep into it and out of it. We kind of want a little bit of flavor of garlic, but we don't want it to be overpowering. Now it's time to begin. Now because I'm impatient, I'm gonna use some olive oil as well because I didn't get as much beef tallow as I wanted. Now this olive oil is probably gonna smoke up on us. I don't really care. In order to avoid that, use an oil with a higher smoke point. So we're gonna begin by taking our steaks and we're gonna lay away from us. It's gonna splash a little bit, so we don't want to get any on us. Boom. And that's the perfect sound that we wanna hear. We wanna hear that sear begin right away once we put it in our pan. Now our pan is gonna cool off very quickly because we just put two really cold steaks in it. So I'm gonna turn up the heat for a while. Now you can already hear the sizzling starting to die out, and that's because our pan is losing heat quite quickly. So our goal, and this is helpful if you have a gas burner, is just to keep the pan really hot, especially for these first few minutes. Now I'm gonna do probably about 2 minutes on each side to begin with, maybe a little bit less. And then we just want to develop that crust and then start bringing down the heat and add some of our other ingredients. It's been about 1 minute and 30 seconds. We're gonna go with our first flip. Now our first flip is not gonna be pretty if your pan isn't super, super hot. Like, unfortunately I can only get electric skillet so hot. But that's why we're just gonna keep flipping until we develop the crust. I promise you that this is not a time to panic. The crust will develop and we have a lot of time to cook because we got a big, thick steak. If we would've got a thinner steak, it does make it quite a bit harder to cook. Basically, your margin to take off the steak at the perfect medium rare, medium temperature is really hard to meet. Now, because this is a New York strip, on this next flip, I'm gonna try to render some of this some of this fat cap down a little bit. It turns out a lot softer, it becomes edible, it actually tastes good, it'll help lubricate the pan. There's a bunch of benefits, or you can kind of ignore it and just cut it off later. But now's the time that when we're cooking it, I like to start flipping it around every 30 seconds. We don't want one side to cook too much. We kind of want to keep it a very even cook. I think it's kind of a myth that you should just flip it once. Flipping it multiple times doesn't change much. It actually locks in the flavor a lot better and makes it more of an even cook. Now this is the point where olive oil is not a great idea because it starts smoking up on you a little too soon. That does mean our pan is nice and hot, and I'd rather have a hot pan with a smoky rim than a cold pan. Back on the fat cap again, just for a little bit. Again, now we're going to 30 seconds and you're gonna see the crust start to develop. You can already begin to tell that we have lost quite a bit of the seasoning, and that's just normal with this method. Now after a couple more flips, we're gonna begin by adding our butter, garlic, and thyme. I already can tell I might run into a problem where one steak is a little bit thinner than the other one, so this is gonna cook a little bit faster, so we're gonna need to get to basting pretty soon. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my butter out, and I'm just gonna put a pretty big scoop straight into the pan. This is gonna melt Then we can start basting it with the spoon. Be generous with the butter because this is gonna help us with a lot of flavor. Who cares about the smoke? Just boom, here comes the crust. Here comes the crust. Okay, now we can start by adding in our garlic. Now our thyme is gonna just add a little bit of aroma, so we add that in, get that really hot, and I like to set them on top of the steak. So again, by tilting the pan, taking the butter, oh, this pan's way heavier than I'm used to. Take the butter, baste the steak, really cover it good. This is gonna give it a lot of little extra flavor. Time to flip, boom. Now I wanna start checking the steaks quite often for looking for 110 degrees internal. This one's right there. So I already have one done. We're gonna take that off, get a little bit of glaze on the other side, grab it, put to the side, and now let's start resting it. While this is going on, we're gonna keep basting. Our butter has become brown because of something called the Maillard reaction. Maillard reaction? I'm not sure. Throw the butter up there, just keep basting it, keep flipping it, and we wanna keep checking for a temperature of 110 to 115. No pun intended, but this is where size matters. This one was just about 1/4 inch thicker, and we're about 20 degrees difference internal. Now this is gonna give me a lot of extra time to work with this one and develop a little bit better of a crust. Remember, it may look like a lot for one person to eat, but you can always split it up into multiple meals or have one steak for a couple people. But that thickness is gonna help you a lot. I would even argue that it's the most important part when picking out your steak. Wow, it's smoky. Boom, and we're at the perfect temperature. Get this side a little bit of wet. We're pulling her off. Can y'all tell which one's a frozen one? With our first visual inspection, this one over here, this is our freezer one, and this is the one that we had kept in the fridge and is, quote, fresh, never frozen. So let's take our first look at the inside of both of these. Perfectly medium. We wanted medium rare. Let's check out this one. Now that one's perfect. I don't know how it shows up on camera, but this one we got a little bit closer to medium, and this one is a perfect medium rare. So from visual inspection, I think these are pretty even, but now to get in the taste. So what I was wondering is our frozen one here, will the expansion and contraction of water when it freezes kind of tear apart the fibers and make it more tender? Or is fresh, never frozen a myth and this one's gonna be way worse? Let's find out. So this is our fresh, never frozen quote. Very good steak. I would have no complaints ordering this down at a restaurant. It's perfectly cooked, tender, no problems at all. Now, if this one equals this one, myth busted, okay? This one does not have to be better for this to be true. Yeah, that tastes great. Honestly, I really can't taste the difference. Well, this is quite surprising. Fresh, never frozen, that might just be a huge myth. That might not mean anything because both of these, this one being frozen for about a week and then thawed out, and this one, fresh, never frozen, about the same. Really, honestly, can't even taste the difference. Besides one being a little bit thicker than the other, they're both amazing steaks, but honestly, you can't tell a difference. So when you see a steak on sale, go ahead and buy a bunch of them, put them in your freezer, or if you only have freezer space and no fridge space, go ahead and freeze your steaks. Because I don't think there's a big benefit to keeping it fresh, if any benefit at all. And definitely, I guess, don't pay for it. Don't pay for fresh over frozen. Seems like it was, once again, all marketing. We'll see you on the next one. I hope this was interesting. I think myth busted. I actually have no idea. What is busted versus? If the myth was it was fresh, never frozen is better, does that mean it was busted? I don't know. Fresh, never frozen doesn't mean anything. See you on the next one.